right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special returning guest. I am joined again by my friend Barry Carenza. Barry, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Zach. Thank you once again
Good.
for having me.
Of course, of course. Yeah, welcome back to people who have been following along with the podcast for a while. You'll recognize Barry as a returning guest. Super happy to have him back. If you are newer to the podcast, or maybe you checked out some episodes but not all of them, Barry might be new to you. So if that's the case, really really awesome guy. He's really passionate about video games. He's really big in the video game industry with his own podcast and YouTube channel and everything that he does with the Premium Playcast and his NintendoFuse, also heavily involved with Premium Edition games. So really cool guy. We had a great conversation the first time, and I'm excited to kind of maybe revisit some of those topics and also just see what's been new since, because it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been almost a year.
Yeah, yeah. So a year. It's a long time, but also feels like it was just the other day. So, catch us up. What's been going on in the past year for you?
It's been a big year.
Yeah.
I had a
Oh yeah.
had a child. So,
Yes, yes, and
that,
congratulations on that
thank you.
again.
That is definitely the highlight of the whole thing. In terms of personal life, and at the
Yeah.
same time, my wife and I just celebrated 10 years of marriage as well. So it's been a busy year personally, but then also a very busy year in terms of games. In terms of premium, we launched some great games this year, and we just announced some.
Mhm.
NintendoFuse, we've been doing our podcast for a while, and then of course, just in terms of personal gaming, I mean, God, it's 2023 has been almost nonstop banging, just banger after banger games
Right.
released. It's been awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And the first question that comes kind of right to mind is, with being a father now, has that changed kind of the way that you go about doing everything that you're doing with gaming and everything? Because obviously it takes up more time being a father. Or have you kind of figured out a good routine and system for you yet?
In terms of personal game time, it's affected it naturally, but it
Yeah.
hasn't affected it as much as I originally thought, and I think that's 100% because of my wife.
Okay.
Because my wife is amazing and understands just how important gaming time is to me, that she will watch him or, lay down and let him sleep on her chest and take a nap so that I could play. And as he's becoming more and more alert, we're noticing more and more he's watching me. Like, he has no idea of
Okay.
what's on the screen. It's just colors. But I love it because it's like, okay, I could just watch the baby while playing a
Mm-hmm.
game, and he's just sitting there watching, and it's like,
Right.
great, I'm doing two birds, one stone. Because he's only 3 months, so he's not like
Sure.
at that stage where he's, getting up and playing or talking or doing any of that stuff yet. So it's still in the what I presume is the easier stage where you kind of put him down. He just sits because he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to move.
Right.
Uh, Once he starts crawling and walking and picking up and doing, I expect, unfortunately, some of that time to dissipate. But
Sure.
at the same time, I'm also looking forward to being able to give him a fake controller or an unplugged controller or something, and just be
Yeah.
like, here, you play along with me, and then eventually giving him an actual controller and letting him play along, and helping him out and letting him discover games and what he likes, and looking forward to that. But that's a little ways away, of course.
Sure, yeah. You definitely have some time before then, but that's gonna be exciting and that's gonna be really cool, and it'll be interesting to see kind of like what he gravitates towards, or what kind of gaming style he has, or what have you. And maybe is it similar to yours, or is it influenced by yours, or is it completely different? I think that's gonna be cool to see.
You know what? It's probably going to initially be influenced by me
Right.
until he gets to school and like all his friends are playing Minecraft or Roblox or whatever, like
Yeah.
games I don't play, and then he's gonna come home and he's gonna be like, all the kids in school are playing this. I want to play this too, and I'll be like, okay, and you want to play with me? I'll be like, I have no interest in those games. I'll watch you. How's that?
Right. There you go. Oh man, I love it. That's gonna be really exciting though. So I'm excited. Like we said, we have some time to wait, but once that time does come for y'all, I'm excited to hear how that journey goes for you.
Uh, it's gonna be a journey unlike any I've experienced. So I look forward to it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, kind of touching on that, like, you know, I guess just in terms of parenthood in general, like how has that been going for you? Like, do you feel like it's a lot of like learning on the fly, or do you feel, I guess, like prepared, or did you feel prepared when you first
I
jumped into
I
fatherhood?
don't think anyone
Okay,
in the history of life ever is truly prepared.
sure.
There's always that, pit in the back of your head and your stomach and your brain, like, oh, what do I do now? Like, oh, that
Yeah,
they were just handing me this living being and I have to go home with it and I have to keep it alive.
yeah,
How do I do that? Like, we took classes prior to, our hospital offered different classes we could sign up for. But just like anything else, the experience is what prepares you.
yeah.
And from what I've heard and what I've experienced personally, uh, I a shout out to every mother out there, because there's something that snaps within a woman when she has a baby, and they just instinctively know what to do. That motherly instinct is
Yeah,
unbelievably amazing, and watching my wife just do things that I have no idea. Like, how did you even know to do that? Like you said, oh, it just I knew something told me I knew, and she just runs with it, and I'm just like, okay. And I think for fathers, not I won't say every father, but I think we're a little bit more disconnected because we didn't grow the human, right? We just helped
sure.
make it. So we don't have those same instincts, and we are more like we have to learn as it goes. So I'm trying to pick up stuff from her. At first I was like, oh, I don't even want to touch him. I'm gonna break him. Like he's
Yeah,
so fragile. And now it's like, oh yeah, it's no problem. I can pick him up now and hold him. Uh,
yeah,
and I think with first child or first children, it's always different than with second, third, etc. Because you're like, oh, I've done this before.
right.
But with first, it's like, oh, I hope I'm prepared. And do we have enough of this? Do we have enough of this? Or can we watch them? Or what do we do with this situation? And so far it's been great because my wife has been on maternity leave, but once she goes back to the office and I'm like left alone with him, I'll be like, oh my god, what do I do? They're like, "Oh god, he made a stinky. Now great. What do I do?" And
Right.
I've always joked with my wife. I'm like, "I'm gonna wrap him in Saran wrap, and you're just gonna come home and find him like that." And I'll be like, Here he is. Your problem now."
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's really interesting to hear kind of that insight. And I mean, I'm not a father. I think everyone listening to my podcast knows that. But maybe someday, hopefully someday, if
Yeah,
given the chance, I'd love to. So it's always cool for me to kind of hear that because, I'd love to have that experience someday, but you
you
know,
know,
you,
it's
you never know.
it's it's something that it's life changing naturally.
Yeah,
And it's something where even when you feel you're prepared, you're like, oh, how is this going to affect my life? And
hmm,
the status quo, and I'm happy with my life, and you have to make sacrifices, right?
sure.
Sacrifices for your children are gonna be there, and I'm sure there's gonna be the day where it's gonna be like, oh, a great game came out, and I want to go home and play it, but my son's got baseball, so here I am taking him to a baseball game for the next 2.5 hours, and come home and make sure he's fed, and then send him upstairs to do his homework. And now I could finally sit down and play, 3.5 hours later. And I'm like, oh man, if I didn't have a kid, I could have just played. But
Right.
but at the same time, it's like there's so many wonderful experiences, and there's wonderful feelings that I didn't know I could have
Yeah.
these emotions. Like when I see my son smile now, like I have my cheeks hurt. It's like they physically hurt from smiling so much from seeing my son smile and laugh. Like just waking up in the morning and he just sees me and he just smiles, and it's just like you smile. It's like
Yeah.
instinctively, it's like this joy that is unbelievable and I've never experienced before. And I'm like, oh, my cheeks are really hurting. Like I have not smiled this much in so long, and
Yeah.
I can't stop because
Yeah.
he's just makes me so happy. And I will say we have a trap baby. Like every experience is different. And I think it was like the second night he was home from the hospital, he was bad fussy.
Okay.
Like every 20 minutes he wanted up, he was fed, gassy, taken care of, wouldn't lay down. My wife and I had a collective maybe 2 hours of sleep throughout the entire night at no more than 20 minutes a shot. and we were looking at each other, and I was like, if this is what I'm in for every night, just shoot me now. And I know there are some kids that are like that, and if your kid is like that, like not you, but like listening, if your
Yeah.
kid is like that and you're going through that, I totally get it. And hats off to you because that is a struggle and it is tough. And knock on wood, my child is amazing now at night. Like I don't know what happened. It was like that was a little fluke. It was
Huh.
like a fluke 2 days and now we put him down usually around anywhere between 10:30 and 11:30 at night, sometimes midnight, and he sleeps till like 8:30 in the morning, 8
Wow.
8:30, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Even in the early mornings, he'll get up at 7:30. I'm like, I can accept this. This is fine.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad that it's worked out so far, and yeah, knock on wood, it stays that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's his a dream. He's like, all right,
Yeah.
that's it. You just solidified. I can't have any more kids because I know if I have another one, they're gonna be terrible.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, man, something that I like to ask, I mean, I guess I don't have a lot of guests that have kids per se, but every so often I'll have someone on that does. So a question I like to ask is like, do you see now that you're a parent, do you see like your own parents or family or anyone that raised you, do you see that in your parenting now?
Um, I'd love to say yes,
Okay.
but I don't, and I think that's because my parents were not the greatest. I come from a broken home, and I learned more what not to do from my parents and
Okay.
what to do. So, not saying that they were both terrible because they weren't both terrible, and they absolutely had positive sides to them, and I
Sure.
love them both very much. But you know, I try and think about the best parts of my childhood and
Mhm.
with them, and those I want to replicate. And then I
Yeah.
think about the things as a kid I didn't like, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do that differently.
Right.
So and I think most people set out to make sure their children have a better life than they do. And if I think if
Yeah.
everyone does that, the world will be, internally be a better place.
Mhm.
But it's kind of weird, certain things I have mad respect for. Now even
Yeah.
more so, like those positive things. I'm like, I really appreciate
Mhm.
uh, you know, those aspects. And then at the same time, it's like, all right, I wish my parents did this. So I'm
Sure.
gonna try and do this. And
Yeah. Yeah. It I can imagine it's kind of that interesting dynamic where you're like it just kind of like opens your eyes to like both the good and the bad, right? Because like
oh,
when you're a kid going through it, or even as you become an adult and you can like look back on it, I think it's one thing. But then when you're actually in that position to of being a parent, it kind of gives you a whole nother way of looking at it.
oh yeah, and I think like looking back at like from my perspective, I always felt that I was a good kid.
Hmm.
I felt it was easy because especially the early years, no one remembers, so I don't really remember what it
Yeah.
was like. But as early as I can remember, I would like get up, I would watch TV, cartoons, Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., stuff like that.
Hmm.
Mom would make me breakfast and I would eat it. And then when the cartoons were over and it was time for like the soap opera and stuff like on weekdays or even weekends, I would, either go outside and play, on my swing set, or I would read a book, or go down play Atari and
Yeah.
Commodore and stuff like that. And I always, as growing up as an only child, I entertained myself,
Hmm.
and I found that I was happiest when I was doing my own thing, entertained myself. Like, leave me alone, mom and dad. I am good.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope in the sense that my child is the same. Like
Yeah.
I want my child to be able to say, at 3, 4 years old, like I'm gonna watch this show. And now, of course, there's so many things, right? There's
Yeah.
streaming, there's infinite shows, there's infinite to watch. He'll never be able to watch it all, and he's just being born now. Or I'm gonna, when he starts playing games, I wanna, play these games and just sit there and enjoy himself, and
Hmm.
then go out, say, oh, let's go for a walk, let's go to the park, and take him and let him be a kid. But I hope he's able to do that. My wife is all like, "Oh, I want to be interactive with everything," and I'm like, "No, I want to raise him more independently." So
Mm,
we'll see what he is, because I know there's all those horror stories where you're trying to get things done and you can't because a kid's just like poking you. Hey, 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 hey! I want to
right.
play. I want to play. I want to play. I want to play. It's like I got to do this. Like entertain yourself. I don't know how. You got to entertain me. It's like, oh my god. So I
Yeah.
hope he's not in that. I hope he knows. Okay, I'll entertain myself. I'll sit in the corner. I'll be
Yeah.
good. I won't destroy the house, or I won't,
Right.
knock things over. You know, so I guess we'll see. But I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to train him to be as independent as possible,
That makes sense.
so that he can, experience.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting to think about because, like, the way that childhood for you and me is vastly different than kids nowadays,
Oh
right?
God, yes.
Like things are so different. So I'm always interested to see like how things work because, I mean, even for me, like I video games were a thing and everything. Like they always have been, in the recent years and such. But like I was definitely one of those kids where like a lot of the times I would just be outside running around with the neighbor kids and
Hmm.
like playing tag and stuff like that throughout the subdivision and what have you. And
Oh yeah.
like, I didn't have a cell phone till I was maybe 16 or something. So, it's like nowadays, like there like screens are everywhere and like you said, they're streaming. Like I had the same experience, maybe watch the morning cartoons and then the, adult dramas, soap operas come on and it's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna watch that. I'm gonna go color, I'm gonna go outside, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go do whatever. But now it's like, oh nope, let's just fire up Disney Plus and put, the whole 5 seasons of whatever on. So I think it'll be
Exactly.
interesting to see kind of for you personally, how your son kind of grows up and what that experience looks like. But just kids nowadays, like how
Well,
different it is than it was for us.
that's something I'm even been personally trying, because I don't trust streaming services, because every day there's like, this is leaving now, and this service is going to go up in cost, and oh, they're
Yeah,
losing money and they're not as
yeah,
profitable, and like all this stuff. And there's so many good shows that are on streaming,
yeah,
and so many ones that we grew up with, and it's like, well, this show, he's got to be like at least 10, 11 before he watches this. What's the
right,
streaming life going to be like in 10 to 11 years? Like, I have no idea. Probably
exactly.
nowhere near as good. So what I've been doing is I've been personally picking up DVDs, Blu-rays of
Oh,
seasons of like complete series of shows that I grew up with. Like, I'm big into the superhero stuff and the
yeah,
gaming stuff. So I'll get like all the Marvel stuff, all the DC stuff,
nice.
Transformers, GoBots, the stuff I grew up with,
Yeah.
and have all those on Blu-ray, DVD. And if it happens to be on streaming
Oh,
and it's easy, okay, fine. But if it's not, you'd be like, all right, look, we're gonna sit down here and like you're gonna watch Adam West Batman, because I loved Adam West Batman, and
yeah,
not have to wait, you know, a week to see what happens next, because those are always cliffhangers. Like, no, we just put on the disc and hit play, and let me know when the disc is done, and watch some episodes with him and relive my childhood, and just have that be able to go back to back to back, like our
yeah,
X-Men and Batman the animated series and stuff like that, because I don't trust any of the streaming. I don't know if it's what it's going to be like, and I want him to
yeah.
experience the stuff I like. Now, if he doesn't like it, I'm not going to force him to watch,
Sure.
3 seasons or whatever of Batman the animated series. Like, if he's like watching like 6 episodes or 8 episodes and goes, Dad, I really don't like this, I'll be like, all
Yeah,
right, we'll watch something else. That's fine.
yeah.
But to be able to give him that, and even with games, like one of the first things I'm going to do is the Switch is going to be his first system.
Okay.
And it's a no-brainer. Even with the Switch 2 rumored next year and whatever, I don't care. He's going to start with the Switch. There's so many great games on it. It's going to be young
Yeah.
anyways. But I'm going to put him on our family plan with NSO, and get him in like the NES app, and just like boot it up and go,
Oh,
here,
yeah.
here you go. I'm going to let you play any game you want, show you how to back out, and let him explore. And let him
Yeah.
just experience the NES library much easier that way, and the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy and stuff, and just let him have fun with it and be like, all right, play in this app for the day and tell me what you find. And, hope he stumbles onto like Zelda, but I want to
Yeah.
hold his hand. I want him to try and go, oh, this is fun, or oh, I don't like this game, but not force him to play a game he doesn't like. But
Yeah.
let him see where he experiences, see where he goes, and and I think that's going to be an interesting experiment. And then if he's like, I'm not finding anything, then all right, well, let's try this. Or did you try
Yeah.
this one? And
Yeah.
kind of point him in the right direction. But again, there's infinite games at this point.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if you take him at 3 months old, and no more games come out, like that's it. October 5th, as of the recording of this, no more games are ever coming out. That's it. and told him, you don't have to work, you don't have to go to school, all you have to do is sit here and play video games for the rest of your life, he would not be able to play every game that has
Right.
come out from now, from the beginning and then in the 70s until right now. For his entire life, he wouldn't be able to play them all. It wouldn't happen.
Right. Right.
So, and obviously during the course of his life, more and more games are naturally going to come out.
Hmm.
So it's infinite. There's infinite entertainment at this stage of the game. There's
Yeah.
more entertainment out there, and that's not even counting movies, TV shows, comic books, music. You can't experience it all
Right.
in a lifetime, and
Right.
that's insane.
I know it is pretty crazy when you think about that, but no, man, I love how you're like how much you've thought about this, and like I love that idea of like finding the DVDs, Blu-rays for, you know, TV shows, movies that are special and meaningful to you, and also that just might be like kind of they're the show now, right? Like
Yeah,
who knows if it's around, when your son's old enough, but like to have that now, like I think that's awesome, and
yeah.
that's a really cool thing, and I
Like,
don't think I've ever heard someone like come up with that idea really, so I think that's cool.
well, I mean, as a collector, it seems natural because I love
Right,
physical media. And I would buy this stuff anyway. But now I've hunted. Like I found like Spider-Man 1967, which I never watched all of that, and it's like, wow, I found that. Like that's not streaming anywhere. Like
right,
cool, I can show it to him. And on HBO Max, or now Max, Titans just finished up, and really like Titans, and I love the DC stuff. So I got the Blu-rays. And that's a very violent show. Like he's not gonna watch that for
yeah,
so he's like 15 years old, and I'm like, in 15 years, Max is probably not even gonna be a thing, and that was a
right,
Max streaming. Like you may not even be able to find it. So, and
yeah,
the Blu-rays might be out of print. Like let me have it now, and that way I can ensure like, hey, you want to see a really cool show? Like check this out. And then it's really been interesting because you don't need internet, of course, with a Blu-ray or a DVD.
mm-hmm,
You just need electricity,
right,
and there's so many players. You need a player, but I mean, all PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all players, and Xbox. Every Xbox is a player.
mm-hmm,
So you have a bunch in game systems alone. Plus, you can get cheap DVD players or Blu-ray players like nothing.
right,
So I figured that's the way to go,
yeah,
especially. And then there's also stuff that's not there anymore. Like my wife and I are watching through Pokemon. Like we never
nice,
watched a lot of Pokemon. Just the original when it came out.
mm-hmm,
And I fell off the wagon like many people. So we're going through it, and there were episodes early on that they cut,
yeah,
and they're like, oh, we can't show this anymore because Jinx is in it, because Jinx is black, and that's offensive. So Jinx is now purple, but we're not going to recolor the old episodes. We're just not going to air them. But
right,
they did release them on a DVD. Like one set of DVDs, they did release it. So it's like, all right, you can stream the Indigo League on Netflix, but you can't stream those episodes. So
right,
I went out and got the DVDs that had them. So I was like, all right, now I'm preserving that media too. So we
yeah,
could always watch it.
that's awesome. There's so many with Pokemon though, so good luck getting all the
Oh, I've
seasons and
got all the
everything.
seasons already.
Do you? Oh wow, okay.
All the seasons, all the movies, but even some of the movies I
Jeez.
had to buy twice because like they did the anniversary for the first three movies on Blu-ray. You could get it really
Mm-hmm.
cheap. It's in a steel book. It looks nice. They made the movies look great, but it's just the movies. So there's no special features, and the
Uh,
shorts that came before the movies are not included. So I have to have the DVDs as well because the DVDs have the shorts.
yeah,
So it's like great. So because especially with my wife, because she never saw it, so I'm like, I want her to give her the experience. So I'm putting in the
yeah.
DVD, so we're playing the short first, and then we're taking out the DVD, putting in the Blu-ray to watch the movie.
I love and appreciate your dedication, man.
You know what? That's the way I feel it should be.
I agree. I'm with you. That's awesome. So I know that just now we've kind of timing and everything, and kind of like the beginning of the episode you've talked about the things that have been going on gaming wise in the last year. So, catch us up to date a little bit on that, what's been going on with premium and what's new on that end.
Yeah. So premium, we just launched our fall direct.
Yep.
Earlier this year we did a state of premium for PlayStation, and we did a spring direct. And then we did the fall. So I don't know, hopefully you had a chance to catch the fall direct.
Was able to check out a little bit of it. I haven't gone through the whole thing yet, but I definitely will.
Yeah, directs are a labor of love. They're about two
Yeah.
months of my life,
Wow.
between writing it and working with our very, very, very talented editor Tristan, who puts it all together. and getting him the assets and talking with the developers to get trailers and to get clips from them to ask them to talk and make sure it all comes together and to get everybody to record, which sometimes is harder to do than than anything
Sure.
else. Like, hey guys, I need you to record. But their labor of loves, and they're so worth it to go out there, and we want to announce the games we put out in a special way because they're all special. Anybody
Yeah.
could just throw up a tweet and go, "Hey guys, this is coming out this week, and this is coming out next week," and there's nothing special there. We really want the games that we're putting out to be highlighted and to be showcased and be like, because we only do a few games a year, so it's like these games are special. These games made the cut. We played these games. We love these games. We were putting our name behind these games, and we think they're worth your time. So we announced our seventh series of titles, which is insane to think that we're
Yeah.
7 series in now. And we announced Anuchard, which we did announce earlier in the spring, but we touched on it more. And Anuchard from Freedom Games and Stellar Null is this fantastic action RPG. It's like Zelda with the aesthetics of Moon RPG, with the humor of Mother, and it's this really cool post-apocalyptic story where you kind of get to go into like almost like people's dreams, and they're
Mhm.
they're done like as a dungeon, and you gotta rescue people from their nightmares and try and figure out what's going on in the world. And as you're going through and you're helping people, you're starting to discover more and more of the world and more of the history of the world and what's going on with Anuchard. And it's it's just fantastical. The puzzles, the environments, the bosses, just done so well. And it's really interesting because there's I like games that give you the option of difficulty. And
Yeah.
this one goes as even a step further where you can actually make it so you take like double damage if you want a really
Mm.
tough time, or take no damage at all. Like,
Okay.
not just like easy setting, like, oh, it's gonna be a kick. Well, you like, oh, no damage at all. Like, you're here just for the experience. And I like games that do that because, especially now as a father, it's like, oh, I don't have as much time to play, and this
Hmm.
way I don't have to worry about struggling. I can just experience because there's such a good mystery behind this game. And if you like Zelda, if you like action RPGs, if you like Mother, stuff like that, like, do not sleep on this. This is an amazing game that so few people, I think, are talking
Hmm.
about. And it has top like list of like best Zelda like games. And it's like, yeah, like check this. Like, this was awesome. Like, this so good.
Yeah.
So we talked about that one. We also finally announced that Sunshine Anthology, which is our longest running game because we did a Kickstarter back in 2020. We were part of their Kickstarter,
Okay.
and it's finally ported to the Switch. So we're finally putting that out just in time for Halloween, because Anachart is available as of this recording, for pre-order. Sunshine is going up on the 30th of October, so just before Halloween. And Sunshine Anthology is a collection of two different games. It's Camp Sunshine and Sunshine Manor. They're part of the same series. They're 16-bit RPGs, but they're horror RPGs, and they got a really cool aesthetics. Camp Sunshine is like Friday the 13th,
Hmm.
where it's in the camp, and the Sunshine Manor is more like in the manor itself, more like Resident Evil in a sense. and
Okay.
and they're really really cool. And Fossil Games has been working on these games for a long time. They're a successful Kickstarter, so I know people have been asking and asking and asking, when are these coming, when are these coming. So we were able to surprise people that they're here, they're part of the series. And like this is one of our deluxes, where the deluxe comes with the steelbook. It comes with a two-sided strategy guide for both games, where it's one where you flip over. uh, so it's so cool. So I'd highly recommend this game, especially if you like old school 16-bit style horror RPGs. And then the last game in the series, in terms of Series 7, is Lonesome Village. And that is from Ogre Pixel. And this is a mix of Animal Crossing meets Zelda,
Hmm.
where you play Coyote, who comes to Lonesome Village and there's no one there. And this is mysterious tower. And you go into the tower and you solve puzzles. And as you solve puzzles, you start rescuing the villagers. and the villagers will start to breathe life into the village, and they'll start giving you quests and tasks, and you could do gardening, and have a farm. You can go fishing. You can, do all the casual stuff. There's different objectives and stuff to collect, and then you go into the tower to rescue more villagers, and it's like Zelda, where you got to figure out the puzzles and figure out your way up, and it's really charming aesthetic. It's definitely fits that cozy feel. It's not going to be your hardcore. It's the feel good, relaxing, play with the family or play by yourself experience. And it blew us all away. Like we were not expecting. We're like, oh, this is just gonna feel one way, and we're like, wow, we couldn't stop playing this game. This was so addicting, and they did a phenomenal job. So I hope people check that out, and that goes up middle of October,
Okay.
and that's the series. But we did talk about a few other things. One of the things we talked about was a Kickstarter that we were a part of earlier this year called Crystalla. It's a action RPG Souls-like game where you
Mm-hmm.
play as a cat or a cat being, and you get to do acrobatics and parkour, and it's just all those wonderful 3D takedowns of your enemies. And we're doing the physical for PlayStation 5, and there's a Kickstarter exclusive, and the Kickstarter's done. It was extremely successful, but they have a backer kit as of right now, and you could still get that physical. So we urge people check it out. They're a fantastic team, Astro Clock Tower Studios. They're beyond passionate, and we are beyond thrilled and honored to be working with them to bring out the physical and help their Kickstarter become successful. So I do hope people check it out. It's truly a fantastic game, and there is a demo on Steam if you're really interested. You can play through the demo, and then we did a couple teases. We teased Carl from Nintendo and Morningstar Studio. Carl is a great 2D platformer where you play as a robot. Almost like Mega Man. There's multiple
Mm-hmm.
multiple levels, and every time you beat the bosses, you get abilities, and I could not stop playing this game. It's so addicting, and we've had this signed for a while. And the reason we're doing it next year is because they're adding content to the game, and we try our best to have all the content on the card as possible. So when we found out they were adding brand new content, we're like, oh, well, we want to delay the physical to make sure that's
Right.
on the card. So that's coming next year. And another tease we actually just teased for today, the day of the recording, October 5th. So we made an announcement earlier this morning that we're going to be releasing the physical for Gordian Quest next year. That is coming from Modus Games. It's up for pre-order right now digitally, coming out later this month. And this is a epic card-based RPG with a full-on like 30 plus hour story, and then there's a rogue-like mode so you could play indefinitely. Just a truly phenomenal game, and we're honored to be working with them to bring this out physically next year. So that announcement went up on our YouTube, and you can check out the trailer. But yeah, and those are just like the big game announcements we touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller updates, stuff to look forward to this fall. We're gonna have some second chance sales for Series 5, which people have been asking for a long time. We're gonna have Rack and Ruin for PlayStation 4 is finally gonna go up for pre-order this fall. It was supposed to go up earlier this year, but there was a bug. Someone notified us that there was a bug in the game that prevented you from getting a trophy with the PlayStation 4 version of the game. And we talked with
Mm-hmm.
LifeSpark Entertainment, the developer, and said, "Hey, this is bug," and they were extremely nice and were willing to go back and fix the bug. So the bug is fixed with digital version and will be fixed on the physical. But we didn't want to take people's money until that bug was fixed, because our
Yeah.
trophy or our challenge patch for PlayStation is to get the platinum trophy to get a trophy patch, and it would be impossible. And we didn't want to do that, so we're like, we're not putting this up. We're not taking your money.
Yeah.
We want the game complete. So they were thankfully able to do that. So when the game goes up later this fall, you will be able to get the complete game on disc with that bug fixed.
That's awesome, man. That's a lot of good and exciting things, and it's just exciting to hear about, man, and just to hear, like, I can clearly hear your passion and excitement for it, and it also makes a lot of sense why it takes so much time and dedication and work to get get all that together for the direct. And I think the it's just exciting to hear about, and I hope everyone is excited. And I think Barry did a great job going over like a very overview of what was shared. But I mean, I definitely would encourage people to check out that direct and see for yourself and experience it and get excited and see what really resonates with you out of those. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, we are
Yeah,
passionate. I mean,
yeah,
it's a labor of love. Doing the direct is a
yep.
labor of love. Working with these developers is a labor of love. And,
Hmm.
doing the production and getting these things out there. And we do have like mega packs on the site too. So if you say, oh, all these sound interesting, I want to get all of Series 7, you have to wait till October 30th to get Sunshine. You could buy a mega pack right now with which has them all, and you don't have to worry about missing. You'd be like, okay, cool, I'm done. Because we always get people after pre-orders close. We're like, oh, I can I get this? Like, right now, someone is like, oh, please, please, I missed Wife Quest, I missed Super Dungeon Maker. Can I get them? I'm like, well, they're closed. You had all year. Like,
Hmm.
it's like we encourage people like get the mega pack. This way, you don't have to worry about it. You're guaranteed to get all the stuff. And all of our games, when you pre-order, they come with a dog tag. That's a pre-order exclusive. It's a bonus. It's just a freebie that we like to do. So as a collector, if you want that extra goodie, it's pre-order.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's cool because, like, I don't know. I mean, I could just be out of things a bit, but I feel like when I was younger, pre-order bonuses or just like collector's editions were a little more, I don't know, like robust, or you just got more like cooler things
oh
than
yeah,
maybe nowadays. And I love that, like, you all have nice little like goodies and bonuses, and you really you can show that you care and that you're getting a lot out of these experiences. Like, it'd be one thing, and it'd still be cool if it was just like, hey, here's the game, great. But like the fact that there's other like added kind of value and bonuses to it, I think that's really, really cool. And it's something that like I personally miss because I remember as a kid, like I would pre-order everything, like so I get the game like on time, but also just because like, oh my gosh, I get this cool thing too. Whereas now, like, honestly, I don't really do it that much because even the games that do have like pre-order bonuses, I'm like, I don't really care about that much.
yeah. There used to be some really cool. Nintendo used to do things like
Yeah.
pre-order Wind Waker, get the Ocarina of Time and Master Quest pack for
Yep.
free, like the actual physical game, like things like that were like that was cool.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're right, a lot of it is less, and we just do. I mean, some people might look at a dog tag and go like, whatever. It's just a little something. We're a small
Yeah.
company. We just want to do something cool, something bonus, because all of our editions already come with so much: the full color manuals, the challenge card, the
Exactly.
slip covers, the sleeves. They all come, with we always say like even our standards are like mini collector's editions. So
Yeah.
it's like what do we throw in there? And it's we don't want to do it on like digital content because all that stuff is on the card. We don't, it's the whole point of doing the physical. So
Hmm.
it's like, all right, little dog tags, that's cool, and they go over well at shows. And we're like, all right, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about it, you know what? Toss it in the garbage. It's yours. It's you do what
Right.
you want with it.
Right.
Give it away. Uh,
Yeah.
it's we like to do fun things because life is short and we
Yeah.
want to have fun. We're video games, right? We're doing video games. That's the whole
Yeah.
point of it. We're here to celebrate the developers because we publish games because we can't make them. And
Right.
to the developers, that didn't like Series 7 Fossil Games, Stellar, Null, Ogre Pixel, Astro Clock Tower Studios, like they're the real rock stars. They're the ones that are
Hmm.
out there. They're making the games. They're making the dream come true. And all we could do is put a pretty package on it and show it
Yeah.
off because we're here representing them. They're the ones
Right.
that were nice enough to work with us, and we want to do right by them because their
Yeah.
games are all awesome, and we hope that everyone gives them a chance and really likes them too.
Yeah, and I know you just said like all their games are awesome, and you hope everyone gives all the games a chance and everything. And when you're kind of going over the Series 7 games and stuff, I think you did it in a way that you showed and expressed interest in every single thing that you talked about. But is there one that you are personally most excited for, or one that you think like you're most excited that other people will get to experience out of all of them that are coming out?
That's like asking, "What's your favorite child?" I only have
Right.
one. No, I can't say in that regard because honestly, we play all the games, we test all the
Mm-hmm.
games, and we yay or nay all the games. And if it makes the cut, that means it's something that blew us away, that we really got
Okay.
addicted to, really, really loved. And the problem is there's so many games out there, like we talked about earlier, that a lot of these games sometimes fall under the radar, and you maybe never even
Right.
heard of them, and be like, well, why should I give the attention to that when there's 100 other games to play? And that's a very good point. And our counterpoint is, if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna say, hey, this is worth us doing the physical on, we're telling you it's got our seal of approval. We
Yeah.
really think you should try it and go for the challenge patch, for sure. But give it a try, and I think you'll find yourself in love. Um, one game I am personally invested in, just because I've known the developers on a personal level for so long, is Crystalla. I met the developers back in 2019 at Play NYC, and I've been friends with them ever since, and been championing their game. So when they were ready to do their Kickstarter, and we were talking with them, and the fact that I at that time I was just a journalist, premium didn't exist, and I could go
Mm-hmm.
from covering your game and in terms of news press coverage to now being able to work with you to bring it out physically is awesome.
Yeah.
Just like in terms of a personal level, not talking anything about the quality of the game versus any of the others, just on a personal level,
Right.
because I know the developers, and in that regards, I've known them for years. It's like that, to me, that's awesome. So I definitely hope people check it out, but I hope they check out all the games, because everyone I've talked with at Stellar Null, and of course Paul from Foster Games, been a longtime friend now, and Ogre Pixels, wonderful. They're an all Mexican team too, which you don't usually see for video game
Mm.
development. So it's really
Yeah.
great. Give them a shot, and of course next year, you're definitely going to want to check out like Carl from Nintendo, who's awesome, and Matt Bittner, who's from Morningstar Studios. They're two awesome guys that made an amazing game, and
Yeah.
we'll be back talking about that next year.
There we
More
go.
about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's check the games out. That's all I could say.
Awesome.
PremiumEditionGames.com. If you couldn't figure that out already,
Yeah, and we'll get to it
yeah,
later on at the end, but premiumeditiongames.com, the website, and all important links will be in the description of the episode. So don't fret, it'll be there for you. But we'll also cover that later
yeah,
on down
of
the
course.
road. But no, that I love it, and I love your energy about it, and staying on I guess on theme with video games. It's 2023, so we're in fall of 2023. So, what's been a standout or a couple standout games that you've played this year? Doesn't mean they've come out this year, but just top games or a top game for you. And then, what are you looking forward to? Whether that's this year, 2023, or maybe 2024, or just anytime in the future.
2023 has been one of those years where I haven't really had time to go back and play a lot of old games, because
Okay.
it's just been banger after banger. Like I said,
Right.
I've
Right.
only played a few games there from like last year, that I just didn't get to,
Okay.
and those were during like the small little downtimes. But this year has been incredible. Of course, you have Tears of the Kingdom, just an incredible game. You have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed, incredible game. You've got Baldur's Gate 3, incredible game. Final Fantasy 16, Diablo 4, Trails into Reverie, and Trails into the into Abyss, not Abyss, Azure, Trails into Azure. Thinking Tales for a second. And then even Legend of Naruto just came out. Like 3 Falcom games came out this year. Phenomenal, phenomenal games. It's just been unreal, and that's not even touching like DLC, like Mario and Rabbids DLC, Pokemon DLC, Mario Kart DLC. You had a new Fire Emblem earlier this year. Fire Emblem Engage was a lot of
Yep.
fun. Bayonetta Origins was a surprise and a lot of fun. Uh, Octopath Traveler 2. I mean, so many.
Yeah.
Altaria Ryza 3 came out this year. This year has been like non-stop amazing. Mystery Detective Archives Raincode was this year. Truly great game if you love the Danganronpa games. It's been nonstop. Like
Yeah.
even right now, I'm playing Silent Hope that just came out for
Okay.
Marvelous, and that's an interest. It's almost like Diablo Light in a sense. It's an interesting
Mm.
little dungeon crawler, and it's kind of just like, all right, this is a palate cleanse. until like it's a smaller game until the next big one.
Right.
You even have like Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1, two biggest fighting franchises have entries this year.
Yeah.
It's been a truly astounding year, honestly, in terms of games.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. And the funny thing is out of everything you've listed, I haven't played a single minute of any of them
Oh
yet.
my God!
Yeah.
Oh, I finished them all except for Silent Hope because I'm still playing it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's and that there's
I
more. It's so
I
good.
know. There's so many more, and that's the cool thing. There's like so many, and like it's great because there's so many options. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. I haven't even played like here's the sad thing. I have not even played Breath of the Wild yet.
Oh my God! See,
So I'm like I know I could, but part of me is like I can't play Tears of the Kingdom till I play Breath of the Wild.
you
And I
gotta
know
get
like
Breath of the Wild first.
and like I know people say like you really could and it's not a big deal, but I'm like no. No, I have to play and honestly, before I even play Breath of the Wild, I'm debating if I should okay, here's the other kind of like twisted thing that everyone always is like, what? As a child, I had babysitters that are brothers, so I would watch them and have no idea what I'm doing but mess around in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But outside of that, I have never played a Zelda game. So
Wow.
now, like, and I on my Switch, I do have Breath of the Wild and I have Skyward Sword HD. So part of me is like, do I play Skyward Sword before I play Breath of the Wild? Because like it came out first, like the original Skyward Sword. But
Honestly, I think what you should do is play Breath of the Wild first, and the reason
okay,
I say that is because I don't think it's a good idea to go from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, and here's why.
okay,
Tears of the Kingdom reuses the map of Hyrule. However, it makes it feel very fresh.
okay,
But that's coming from somebody who played Breath of the Wild back in 2017, and dabbled in it a little bit in 2018 with the DLC, and
okay,
then now it's 2023.
yeah,
I think if you go Breath of the Wild instantly into Tears of the Kingdom, the world won't feel as fresh because you just
okay,
experienced it.
okay,
So I think Breath of the Wild should be first, and then you should go back and play like Link's Awakening, Skyward Sword.
okay,
If you've never played, obviously the NSO app has Zelda 1 and 2, and then Link to the Past is on the
yeah,
Super Nintendo, Link's Awakening, the Game Boy version, the Oracle games just came out, Minish Cap is there. You've got so many great Zelda games just in the NSO apps that you can go and just play those in the middle and
yeah.
experience them, and then finish up with Tears of the Kingdom. And I think you'll have a better experience.
Okay. I appreciate that. That's kind of a good plan and um I'll have to I think my NSO is up sometime this year because I I got like a couple of years worth before they kind of made some changes. So I actually own I don't have like the what N64 and
And
G
GBA and like
GBA.
Genesis.
Yeah, that's it, right? Because like the
Yeah.
just like the basic one has Super
NES,
Nintendo and yeah,
SNES,
okay.
and Game
Yeah.
Boy.
On
Game
Game
Boy
Boy,
Color's
okay.
there too.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
wow.
you can still play Zelda 1, 2, Link to the Past, Oracle of
Okay.
Ages, Oracle Seasons, and the original Link's Awakening on
Okay.
your $20 a year thing.
That's such a good value. That's insane. Oh
And that's
my
just the
gosh.
Zelda games.
Yeah.
So, and then if you get NSO up, the expansion, you can get Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Minish Cap
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Oh man.
So you right there, I mean, you could play almost every Zelda game on the Switch right now. Four Swords Adventures, Triforce Heroes, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. I think are the only ones that you can't play.
Right.
And it's like, oh, and what do you call it? Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, the DS games you can't play.
All right. Yeah. Yep.
But you could play so many games from the Zelda series already, and it's
I
like
know.
you're in for a treat. Zelda's phenomenal series.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard, I mean, obviously it's huge and I've heard such great things about it. And so like my Nintendo game that will always like have my heart is Super Smash Bros. Like
Of course.
I absolutely love it. And like my big thing is like I love that game, that franchise so much, whether it's the N64, Melee, Brawl. Admittedly, did not play much Smash 4, but then Ultimate and stuff. And my big thing is like I've played those games to death, and I love all the characters. It would be so fun to actually play the original games that the characters
Oh
came from.
yeah.
So obviously, like the Zelda games is a huge one, and even like you kind of mentioned earlier with kind of like one of the games in Series 7 kind of having like a mother feel
Hmm.
like Ness, Lucas, super fun characters to play, but I didn't even know where they came from until, I got a little older and I kind of learned about some of the lore and history. So like even trying out those games, I've never played a Metroid game.
Oh my
So like
God.
Samus and Ridley now, and it's just there's so many great franchises, and like this is all Nintendo, right? Like
Yeah.
like I also play PlayStation and Xbox, so like it's just that's why my backlog is forever growing. But there's so many great things out there, and I
Well, see,
just
there's
I'm
a benefit
excited.
to that too because
Yeah,
you don't have to go through the trial and error and be like, all right, this isn't like a subpar experience. You can
right.
play just the creme de la creme if you really want to, and
That's
then
true.
you can move on to others. So like even Metroid, you never played Metroid. You have Metroid One, Metroid Two, and Super Metroid are all in NSO and the
Yeah.
free NSO. And they're especially Super Metroid is amazing. The first two are a little bit dated, like no
Okay.
map system in the first game. Like it's a lot harder. Like
Yeah.
zero mission is the way to play that on the GBA. Which again, if you had NSO, well, the Fusion is there. Zero mission isn't there yet. But I'm sure zero mission is coming.
Hmm.
But like, and then of course Metroid Dread is
Yep.
and Metroid Prime One Remastered is there on the Switch. Two phenomenal games. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely a cool experience and something a lot of people in America, we didn't really get except for Fire Emblem. Because
Yep.
when Melee came out, Marth and Roy, we had never heard of Fire Emblem and finally got to play the Fire Emblem games on the GBA afterwards. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And see,
absolutely.
see, that was another one, like Fire Emblem. Like one of my all-time favorite Smash characters is Roy, and I didn't even really know much about Fire Emblem. And my first ever Fire Emblem game was Three Houses. Absolutely fell in love with that game. And I haven't gotten to engage yet, but like since I loved Three Houses so much, it's like, hey, now like I want to go play older Fire Emblems and I want to try engage and just, again, that's the cool part of like I probably wouldn't even thought of to play any of those games if it wasn't for coming
Smash
across
Bros.
the characters in Smash Bros. Yeah, so it's cool.
Well, if you've never played the Xenoblade games, because Xenoblade's represented in Smash, you're doing yourself a disservice because they're beyond amazing. All of them, every one of them.
I tried the first one and I don't know if like maybe I think the thing that I struggle with in games is like I just because life is busy for me, like I don't always have the time to like sit down and really dive deep into games. So I kind of run games in a sense.
Yeah.
Like I just want to go through them quickly. And I feel like games like Xenoblade or honestly any RPG, I try to speed through it, but I'm so underleveled. I just like I can't progress. And then I'm just like, oh gosh, I could go grind, but I don't have the time or the patience. So then I'm just like, I'll come back to it someday. And that's one that like I was having fun with it, and then I got someplace early on, like a couple hours in, and I couldn't beat some battle, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm underleveled, but
Did
I
you
I
play on the
can't.
easiest difficulty?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because that's always something. I do the same thing. There's some games where it's like, all right, I'm gonna play through to completion, but I'm not gonna 100%. And I'll play on
Yes.
like the
Okay.
story difficulty or the easiest
Yeah.
difficulty just to have fun with the experience without having to do the grind or beat my head
Exactly.
against the wall kind of deal. So I totally feel you. And Xenoblade One has that cool yellow line where it'll actually point you to your objective.
Yes, I did like that because in other games I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going.
Xenoblade 3 has that as well, and I don't remember if 2
Okay.
does, but I know 3 does it, and it's
Okay.
great because it's if you want to just get to the objective, it's like here to go. And I'm the
Yeah.
type of person where if the yellow line is pointing to the right, I'm going to the left. No,
Yeah.
I want to see what's over there first.
Right. Right. I love that. So, I mean, you mentioned, and I also kind of brought up, like Zelda, Xenoblade, Metroids. So a lot of great franchises, and they all have Smash representation. So out of all like Smash Ultimate, obviously has all the characters. What's like if you could only recommend me to like if after we get off this call, I had to check out one franchise, which one would you tell me to go check out? Like it's a must. I need to experience it right now.
If you're talking just within Smash characters,
Yeah, yeah.
I as much as I want to say Zelda, I would have to say Xenoblade, just because it's
Okay.
like I think
Okay.
the storytelling that they did in 6 games, not counting X, but the 3 main games and the 3 sub
Yeah.
games, is so good.
Okay.
And the way Future Redeemed ended this year, it was just wanting Xeno 4 so badly now. Like it is
Okay.
so unbelievable.
Okay. I I am going to give Xenoblade Chronicles the first one a chance again. I'm just gonna honestly probably just restart because it's been a minute since I
Even
played
if
it.
you
So
feel it was too difficult in that sense, I mean, you could try Xeno 2.
okay.
I would do one or two before even touching. 3 is great, but I would
Okay.
definitely 3 is better if you played 1 and 2. And
Okay.
if you really just say like I want a smaller experience right now, Torna is where I would start then, because Torna is technically
Okay.
a prequel to 2. And you kind of it's a shorter experience. All of the smaller ones are shorter.
Yeah.
It's like a 15-hour experience.
Okay.
Um, and it's isolated and it's cool, and it tells a prequel, and then it ends into the beginning of Xeno 2, whereas like
Okay.
Xeno 1 has Future Connected, and but Future
Mm-hmm.
Connected is an epilogue, so it's like it's a
Yeah.
shorter game, but I wouldn't play it until after you beat Xeno 1. And
Okay. Okay. All right. Yep. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it a shot. And honestly, I was having a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed it, and the story was really great. I just remember that like I couldn't beat something, and also like, and we've talked about this before, but I'll be honest and say I'm not like that good of a gamer. So like, I just like even if it takes like skill for the combat, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not good. So that might have been part of it
Xeno
too. But
1, going back and playing it, there was, yeah, I did on the easiest difficulty. There was only
okay.
one battle, and it's like notoriously a difficult battle. It's a way late game that
Okay.
gave me any trouble,
Okay.
and it's one that obviously you could grind to beat, and there's strategies to beat. I kind of did the more difficult way, just like I'm gonna try and push through this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything for the fight, but
Yeah.
there is notorious. And once you beat that, it's not even the final boss. It's much more smooth
Okay.
sailing. But I'm talking at this point, you're at the very end of the game, so you're so invested. You're like, screw it, I'm gonna beat this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Awesome. Anything coming out soon that you're really looking forward to?
So much for
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Mario Wonder is coming out, of course. Mario
Yep.
RPG remake is coming. Tales of Arise is getting an expansion, like out of
Yeah.
nowhere, DLC expansion like that. I'm excited for. I love Tales of Arise.
Me too.
You've got what else? Star Ocean 2 is getting a remake. That looks amazing. That's coming this year. WarioWare has a new entry this year. Detective Pikachu,
Mm-hmm.
I might play. That comes out tomorrow as of the time of this
Yep.
recording. There's at least Spider-Man 2, of course, is coming this
Yep.
year. There's probably one or two others that I'm like totally blanking on, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, how'd I forget
Yeah.
that? But those are definitely big ones. I am very much looking forward to. And it's already been such a stacked year. It's like, what a way to
Yeah.
end.
I know. Yeah. I mean, you listed some bangers that are gonna come out and be huge, and I I kind of not surprisingly because I haven't played a lot of good games, but I have never experienced Super Mario RPG, and I've heard fantastic
Oh,
things about it. So I
so
think
good.
that's gonna be really cool.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's because that's the Geno love, right? Where everyone.
That Gina's from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario RPG is a special game because it was the first foray in for Nintendo into that. Of course, Square Enix made it, or SquareSoft made it, and that was the last game that Square made with Nintendo or for a Nintendo platform until Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the
Hmm.
GameCube. It was
Okay.
the last one that the entire N64 generation is skipped, and most of the GameCube generation. It was the only game for the GameCube was Crystal Chronicles. So like it from that high to this drought, if you were a Nintendo gamer like I was, of
Mhm.
Square games, and it was so bad to have that drought for that long. And I was like, oh man, because I was a kid, so I couldn't afford everything.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford a PlayStation. I had to play at my friends' houses.
Right.
So I played. So I'm back on the Super Nintendo, just playing SNES RPGs and getting ROMs from Japan from like Final Fantasy V
Yeah.
and stuff like that that never came over here. And Secret of
Right.
Mana 2, which is really the third game, which is now Legend of Mana or Trials of Mana, um, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's so many good stuff, and even on the Switch, so many good RPGs.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's
There really are. That's again something that I never like. I didn't really grow up on RPGs. Never really got into them. So that's something that like there's so many good ones out there that I'm like I want to give RPGs a chance. Like I mean I grew up on Pokemon, which you would call
yes,
it an RPG, but like
absolutely.
the other kind, like the main kind of like non-Pokemon RPGs, I have not experienced. So there's so many
Ooh,
out there, and
you just reminded me of another one. Dragon Quest Monsters has an entry coming out later this year too, which is like
oh,
Pokemon.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay,
So
that's
yeah, no,
awesome.
I mean, you said you like Tales of Arise, so you played
Yeah,
some of the Tales of games, and Tales of is fantastic.
yeah, that was
Oh,
the first Tales game that I played, and
uh,
fantastic. I absolutely fell in love with it, and it was the I think I played it like last year, and I think it was whatever year I played it, it was like my favorite game of the year, and I was like, I need to go and play all of them.
yes,
And I've heard
yes.
that some are different, like combat's different or
Hmm.
whatever gameplay, but I mean the story I found was fantastic. The characters I thought were great. It was a lot of fun, and that was a game where I played on the easiest difficulty and it went really well. There was the occasional like, oh man, this is tough, but it was like this is tough, but like I want to beat it. Like I'm gonna figure
Yeah,
it out. So that was like it was like it gripped me because I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of like the mind-bogglingly difficult. I want to like rage quit
yes.
games.
Now,
But
Arise is different than the others,
yeah,
but the others are so good.
okay.
I mean, you could more recently Vesperia and Symphonia had remakes.
Yeah.
Abyss is my favorite. If you have a PS4 or
Mm-hmm.
PS5 that can play PS4, you can get Zesteria, you can get as well. And then unfortunately trapped in the PS3 are Zillia 1 and 2
I
and
do have a PS3
oh
though.
Bizzeria. Bizzeria was also on PS4. That's a great
Okay.
one. Zillia 1 and 2 are great.
Okay.
PS3 you could also get Grace's F. Grace's F is awesome. Um, they're all good. I mean,
Yeah.
like the worst one is still like an 8.5 or something like that. Like it's still a good game.
Right. So you mentioned they're all good and they're a bit different than Arise. Like,
Hmm.
is there one that you would say that is similar-ish that like since I loved Arise, it would be a good one to try?
It's tough because Arise is different in terms of combat. In terms of
Okay.
story, they're all very similar in types of epicness of the story
Okay.
and the twists and turns and things you're not going
Sure.
to see coming. In terms of the combat, Arise is like a very different in that regards.
Okay.
But some are heralded. They're all the combat's different. A lot of people say like Grace's F is the pinnacle of combat, and other
Okay.
people say they prefer the Zillia games, and other people will say no, Tales of Berseria has it in spades, and some people
Interesting.
like Zesteria's ability to merge two characters together, and I love Abyss, and I love the characters there, and some people love Symphonia, and then Symphonia Dawn of a New World had monster taming, and if you like that, that's part of like they're all have different elements,
Okay.
and they're all just highly recommended.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I definitely want to give them a shot. And I think like it's interesting because now that I'm thinking kind of out loud a bit, like I loved Arise, and I think the combat was very, different, like you said, and very distinct. And I think even back to like the Final Fantasy games, and obviously Final Fantasy's been around for
Yep.
forever, very highly reviewed, respected, enjoyed games. But I've actually only played one Final Fantasy game, and it was, oh gosh, 15
Oh,
or something.
my least favorite.
Is that's the one with
Noctis in the
Noctis?
car. Yep.
absolutely loved that game. Like everyone was like, "Oh, that one's like a terrible one, or it's not
Yeah.
as good." But I loved it, and I thought the combat was fantastic. And I hear that like the combat there is pretty different than the other ones, and
Yes.
I'm like, maybe I'm just this weird person that likes like a certain niche of
No,
RPGs.
I think it depends. I think a lot of us that didn't like 15, we grew up with the originals.
Okay,
So
okay.
for us, it was so different because 15 was supposed to be a spin-off. It was versus
Ah,
13. It was a game that was in development hell for
okay.
years. It was a spin-off to Final Fantasy 13, and eventually they just made it 15.
Yeah,
So it was always supposed to be an action RPG because the main line was supposed to be turn-based and or online with 11 and 14, which are kind of turn-based. But because they made that over and they kind of rushed it. I mean, 15 wasn't done, then they had DLC, and then they never even finished the DLC before they canceled it. Um, it's kind of a black sheep in that regards.
sure.
16 has action of combat as well, which I thought was done better, and 16 is a
Okay,
great game. But 16 is very it's like a non Final Fantasy game in the sense
okay.
like you have yourself, like you're just Clive, like you have
Mm-hmm.
other party members that will occasionally join, but you never equip them, you never take care of them. It's just you, and it
Mm-hmm.
almost reminds me of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is the game they made for the U.S. audience because we're too dumb to deal with RPGs,
Yeah,
where you just had one character and a party member, and you only had to deal with your one character, and your party member just attacked.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's definitely worth it, I think. But you know, again, it's a great series to go through, and of course, like the Pixel remastered, you can go the first six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 2, 12 are all on Switch. And then, 10, 10 2, 12 are also on, I think 8 is as well on PlayStation. 7 and 9 are probably there digitally as well. They just didn't get physicals. And then, of
And
course,
it
7 Remake. And
ZAP 7 remake.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's so many Crisis Core. There's so many Final Fantasy
Yeah.
to experience.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just getting excited from this conversation about all the good games that I'm learning about or just remembering of. So there's a lot that I'll have to get
Bait
to.
and Kados just got remade for the Switch. Bait and Kados 1 and 2, phenomenal RPGs too, from
Okay.
Monolith Soft.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
The list keeps growing.
oh yeah, Grandia 1 and 2 are on the Switch. Phenomenal
Yeah.
RPGs. Etrian Odyssey 1 to 3 just got brought over. Great
Yep.
DS RPGs.
Okay.
The list just goes on and on. Like it's
Yeah.
never ending.
For sure.
But you
For
have the
sure.
ability to do the classics. Even with NSO on the Super Nintendo app, Breath of Fire 2 is there. Phenomenal Capcom
Okay.
RPG series. Hours upon hours of entertainment.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. One kind of like last, and I guess it's a big topic, but last thing that I was kind of curious on, you brought it up very, very briefly, kind of in passing in this
Mhm.
conversation. Nintendo Switch 2,
Oh yeah.
thoughts,
Oh yeah. That's happening next
ideas?
year. Switch 2
Okay.
is going to happen next year. It's going to happen, I'm going to say anywhere between summer to fall.
Okay.
It's not going to happen this year at all. They're not going to talk about it this year. They're not going to cannibalize the holiday um, sales this year because it'd be
Mm-hmm.
stupid. Plus, they just put out new Switch Lights, the Mario Switch, and there's another Mario Kart 8 bundle. Um, so they're not going to cannibalize that. And they've already stated that they're focused for the next quarter for Switch, and the next quarter fiscal it ends I think March. So
Yeah,
like
I think so.
March 2024 or whatever, they're committed, which makes sense because if you saw the last Nintendo Direct, there are games for spring 2024 like Peach and Luigi Mansion 2
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So I totally don't expect an announcement at all until probably E3 era, like June.
Okay.
Maybe spring. Maybe or January, the January February Direct. They'll do something, or in April. April we might see it in April. Um,
Okay.
but but I think that it's got to be backwards compatibility. It's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be. I know there's an article that's been going around on Twitter where it's like, oh, someone says it doesn't need it and it's ruffling feathers, and you know, I guess that person thinks differently, and hopefully Nintendo doesn't agree with them. But I think in today's day and age where preservation is so important, having that backwards compatibility just gives you an instant library.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's going to be another hybrid system because it worked. If
Yep.
it ain't broke, don't fix it. Hopefully they make the dock able to enhance it more. Like it's got to be 4K at this point.
Yeah.
Nintendo being behind with that is always about households. Like, oh, the Wii wasn't HD because back in 2006, not a lot of people had HD TVs in their house. But by 2012, HD TVs were definitely more commonplace. In
Right.
2017, 4K TVs weren't in every household, but now it's harder to find a non 4K TV than it is to just buy a 4K TV.
Right.
So at this point, most people have them. It's not a big deal. It's like the norm. So it has to be able to do 4K.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're gonna do gimmicky controllers or not. I mean, with the Joy Cons, I mean, they might do something similar, but it's got to be more powerful. And from everything I hear, it could run the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 demo, which was a phenomenal demo. If you've never, if you ever
Yeah.
tried it, it was really cool. And if the Switch 2 can run that, then I am beyond excited for what the next generation Nintendo games are going to look like. Because that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, everything you said, I agree with. I think is important and would be on my personal wish list for a Nintendo Switch 2. Do you have any thoughts, guesses, predictions on launch title? Like a big franchise launch title that they would drop with it.
Um, 3D Mario is my
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Because if you think about 2017, you know, you had Breath of the Wild, which was a Wii U game,
Mm-hmm.
and you had Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade 2, and Splatoon 2, Arms, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe were the big ones, and even
Right.
Mario and Rabbids was there. And if you look, most of those games got sequels this year. You know, Tears of the Kingdom came out this year. Mario
Mm-hmm.
and Rabbids, Sparks of Hope was this was it? No, it was last year. Sparks of
Yeah, I
Hope
think so. Sure. Yeah.
last year. You had Splatoon 3 was last year. Even 1-2 Switch got a sequel this year.
Right.
You know, you had Mario Kart 8 DLC. You have all these things. Arms didn't get anything, unfortunately, but I don't see Arms as a big launch title. Xenoblade 3 came out last year. Future Redeemed this year. So I don't see Xeno 4. So that leaves Mario Odyssey. And I do think even with Mario Wonder and this direct being very Mario focused, you know, Mario RPG, Luigi's Mansion 2, Princess Peach Superstar, you've got
Oh, and the Paper Mario
and
too.
Paper Mario, Thousand Year
Yeah,
Door,
Thousand Year
yeah.
Door.
So you've got no 3D Mario, and I think that's going to be your launch. And I think I I don't know if it's going to be Switch 2 exclusive though. It might be
Mm,
Switch 1 and Switch 2, where it plays better on Switch 2.
yeah.
And I think they're going to do that. I think you're going to see Luigi's Mansion 2 and Peach and all that advertised as plays better on Switch 2 because they have it. They have the dev kits. They've been showing them off.
Mm-hmm.
The games being developed right now are being developed with Switch 2 in mind.
Yeah.
So even Mario Wonder, you know, it could be like, oh, if you put it in a Switch 2, it's going to be enhanced because the coding is there to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be your big thing. People are saying Mario Kart 9, which is
Mm-hmm.
really going to be Mario Kart 10 because Tour counts as 9. But I don't see Mario Kart being a launch game just
Okay.
because they did the booster pack for the past 2 years. I think they're
Right.
going to let Mario Kart simmer. They don't want to do it too much, and they're going to do Mario Kart next year or the following year. So 2025
25.
is that's my prediction. I think it's the same thing with like Smash Brothers. I don't think Smash is going to be for the launch year. I think it's going to be afterwards.
Yep.
Zelda, of course, is not going to be anything for a while unless they do just ports or something like that. Maybe we'll finally get the Wind Waker Twilight Princess
Yeah.
ports
Yep.
from Wii U. I think you're going to see Xeno X from the Wii U there on the original Switch with enhanced for Switch 2 next year to give the
Okay.
dev team more time for Xeno 4. I think you're going to see Metroid Prime 2 and 3 coming over on the regular Switch, and I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be Switch 2 exclusive,
Okay.
and that could be next year. That could be a launch title. That's been in
Okay.
development for a long time.
Yeah, it has.
So
Okay.
that's my prediction. Of course, a new Pokemon next year.
Yep.
New generation. They did the DLC this year, so new gen next year.
Yep. Okay. I think that all makes sense with your predictions. 3D Mario, I think, would be huge. Do you think Odyssey too, or just the 3D Mario in general?
I mean, I think a 3D Mario because
Okay,
Nintendo has shown they rarely do sequels.
that's true.
Galaxy 2 was an exception because they had so much extra content that they had to cut from Galaxy 1 that they just had enough to make a whole new game, so they did it. But otherwise, 3D Mario doesn't get sequels,
That's
so
true.
or direct sequels on the same system. So I think they're gonna do something brand new with Mario in 3D. That I think it's gonna be similar to Odyssey in
Sure.
terms of collectathon as opposed to like 3D World.
Yeah.
And I think Bowser's Fury. I think it's going to be some kind of hybrid between Odyssey and Bowser's Fury
Okay.
because it's another thing. We had Bowser's Fury on the Switch as well, so we
Yeah, I
kind of
remember
did
that.
have two 3D
Mm-hmm.
Mario's in that sense.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Okay. Awesome. Well, I love the predictions. If honestly, if like a fraction of what you predicted comes true, I think a lot of us would be very happy.
I hope
But
I'm right.
yeah, I hope you're right too. And that's the cool thing about podcasts and this one. We'll play it back next year and we'll see what happens. But and we'll see how
Don't
accurately.
chastise me if I'm wrong. That's all I'm
Right.
going to say.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. We will take all your predictions with a grain of salt.
There
But
you go.
no, it's been awesome talking to you, Barry. And as I mentioned, you know, we will give you kind of that spot of the website you mentioned earlier, premiumeditiongames.com, best place to check out everything that was just announced and any pre-orders that you might want to place. But where else can folks check you out, follow along with your journey, whether it's the platforms that you're involved with or you personally?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Fuse at Hawk Hellfire. All three are the exact same. Make it nice and simple. You could also find me with NintendoFuse at youtube.com/NintendoFuse and NintendoFuse.com and places like Twitter at NintendoFuse, Facebook NintendoFuse, stuff like that. We do our podcast every other Monday, so our next podcast is next Monday. We do those 8:30 p.m. Eastern live, so you can check them out on YouTube or Twitch. And we're doing it on camera live, so you can watch us mess up if we mess up. And then, of course, Premium Edition Games, you can find us at premiumeditiongames.com, where you could pre order Series 7 now, as well as a bunch of great games we still have in stock from previous series. We still have copies left. So definitely check those out and pick them up today. You can find us also on Twitter at Premium Edition 1, as in the numerical one, and everywhere else, social media wise, at Premium Edition Games.
Okay, perfect. And again, all that's going to be in the description of the episode. So go ahead and click around, go check out everything Barry mentioned. Get some new games. Check out some new games that you might not even heard of or might not even have thought of giving a shot. That's what the beauty of premium edition games are. Check out the podcasts. Just check out everything Barry's doing. It's always cool to see what he's up to and to follow along. So definitely would encourage that. And Barry's if you didn't get it from this conversation, he's a really cool, really down to earth, great guy that's super knowledgeable and passionate about collecting and video games and movies and all the good entertainment. So, just even say, hey, what's up? Say that you heard
Oh,
him on this podcast. And I'm sure we'll be doing it again next year, having you back and chatting up again.
oh, it'd be an honor to come back, of course.
Awesome.
I really want to know now how right I am or how wrong I am.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm excited. So we'll have to we'll have to keep tabs on that and then bring you back and then either praise you or make fun of you based on how the
I'm
results shake down.
prepared for the insults already.
Perfect, perfect. Barry, any final thoughts or message you want to leave to our listeners?
Yeah, first off, if you made it this far, thank you for your time. It's been a blast recording this, so hopefully you've had a blast listening. I really hope you give at least one game a shot from Premium Edition Games, and hopefully you like what you pick up, so you play more. And hopefully your life is going well if you're listening and you're playing some great games and everything is hunky dory and you're prepared for a good holiday season. And thanks for the sticking with us the whole time. And feel free to send me a message and chat on social media.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Barry. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's been listening along. I don't think this I've done, but it's up there. It's a pretty long one and it's a good one. So thoroughly enjoyed it, and just thank you as always for your time, Barry. Really glad to be able to connect with you and call you a friend and learn about all the things you're up to, and wishing you all the best of luck with everything that you're doing with the gaming space, but also best of luck just as you kind of continue on your journey of parenthood and fatherhood, and wishing you and your family all the best, and happy, healthy, safe holiday season. And I know we'll be in touch talking soon, and we'll definitely be having you back in the future again for the podcast.
Thank you. The honor is all mine, and all the
Yeah.
same to you.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. Have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.